Port Elizabeth, 1990s. A city filled with opportunity and danger. The people lived their lives unaware that a predator was among them. Women walked in groups. Parents warned their children not to talk to strangers. But no one knew that the real danger wasn't the darkness in the streets. It was the man standing right beside them. Stewart Wilken was born in 1966. His childhood was a nightmare. He never knew his parents. Abandoned at birth and passed from one foster home to another. He grew up in institutions, neglected, mistreated, and alone. He had no love, no warmth, only pain, and pain breeds monsters. As he grew older, the darkness within him deepened. He didn't just crave violence, he craved power. Power over life and death. By the time he reached adulthood, the damage was done. Wilken wasn't like other people. He didn't feel emotion the way most did. He had no sense of right or wrong. Only one thing drove him: the need for control. The first body appeared in 1990, then another, and another. Women and children began to disappear without a trace. No forced entry, no struggle, just gone. The police had no suspects, no evidence. It was as if the killer was a ghost. Wilken was careful. He selected victims who wouldn't be immediately missed. Street children, sex workers, vulnerable people trying to escape a hard life. His victims had names, but in his eyes, they were nothing more than objects. He played with their lives as if they were toys. When he killed, he took his time. The act wasn't just about death, it was about domination. He wanted to control every breath, every heartbeat until it stopped. For years, Wilken perfected his methods. He learned how to lure his victims without raising suspicion. He preyed on the most vulnerable. He knew which streets were unguarded, which alleys were dark enough to hide his evil deeds. And when he took them, it wasn't just about killing, it was about ownership. He didn't just end their lives, he controlled them, even in death. But the most terrifying thing? This wasn't a crime spree, it was a game. And Wilken was just getting started. Some killers leave clues, some killers make mistakes. But Stewart Wilken, he was different. He didn't care if he got caught, because deep down, he believed he never would. By 1995, the police knew they had a serial killer on their hands. The pattern was clear: women, children, street workers. The victims had no connection, no common thread. To detectives, it made no sense. Serial killers usually had a type, but Wilken, he killed indiscriminately. That made him unpredictable. That made him dangerous. The police were frustrated. The forensic teams found nothing. No fingerprints, no fibers, no hair. It was as if the killer was a phantom. Officers patrolled the streets, but Wilken knew how to blend in. He was just another face in the crowd, just another man walking the same streets he used as his hunting ground. Then the forensic team made a chilling discovery. Wilken wasn't just murdering his victims, he was returning to their bodies, revisiting the scenes, reliving the moment. For him, the crime never truly ended. Detectives sat in dark rooms, poring over case files, photos, missing person reports. Every victim had one thing in common: they vanished without a trace, as if they had never existed. The killings weren't sloppy, they were deliberate. Wilken knew exactly what he was doing. He left no DNA, no evidence, just fear. But every predator leaves a trail, and Wilken was about to make his first mistake. A sex worker, a survivor, came forward. She had escaped a man who had tried to kill her. She had seen his face, and she would never forget it. A police artist worked on a sketch. The image was circulated. For the first time, the ghost had a face. The police set up surveillance, watching the areas where he struck before. Days passed. Nothing. Then an officer spotted a familiar figure near one of the crime scenes. A man with deep-set eyes, a hollow expression, a face without emotion. It was Stewart Wilken. But catching him, that was another story. Some killers deny their crimes, some show remorse. But Stewart Wilken, he smiled, he laughed. Because for him, getting caught was just another game. February 1997. The police had him in custody. But would he talk? Most serial killers deny everything. They fight for their freedom. Wilken didn't. He didn't beg. He didn't plead. He confessed, not just to one murder, not just to two. He described in sickening detail at least 7 murders. How he lured his victims, how he ended their lives. He told investigators how he felt a rush of power knowing he had taken a life. And worst of all, he showed no guilt. But the most disturbing part? One of his victims was his own daughter. Wilken strangled her with his bare hands. Then he went home. He ate. He slept, as if nothing had happened. In the interrogation room, Wilken didn't just admit to his crimes. He relived them. He described each killing as if he was recalling fond memories. He spoke of the rush, the power, the feeling of control. And then he smiled, a cold, empty smile that sent shivers down the detectives' spines. The trial was one of the most horrifying in South African history. The defense tried to argue insanity, but the jury saw the truth. Stewart Wilken wasn't insane. He was evil. 7 life sentences, no parole, no second chances. Just a cold, dark cell, forever. Some say he wanted control. Some say he wanted fame. But one thing is certain. Stewart Wilken was proof that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones hiding in the dark. They're the ones walking among us. And sometimes they smile. The end. Or is it?